And as you can see from the slide that we're just about to show, the Cyberwatching project basically gathers and observes all of the projects in Europe and nationally, and helps them to, if you like, sell or have their results adopted by SMEs. We're creating a marketplace, and we're creating a marketplace where SMEs can have access to cheaper, cutting-edge results which are coming from research and innovation projects. And at the same time, the project is also raising awareness of cybersecurity and privacy as a topic by providing training and free services like that. So we're very interested in reaching out to small businesses and the clusters which are dotted around Europe, which help SMEs to grow and develop. So just if you could change the slide, next slide please, Niccolo. Just some examples of 4 projects, and we have actually a catalogue, we have the link available, of 48 projects, but these are just some examples of projects which are designing services specifically from SMEs in the different aspects of the chain to creating more secure and trusted services, from assessing the cost of risk to actual frameworks to support an SME at a cost-effective level. Next slide, please, Niccolo. So today we have a series of brief interventions from, as I said, a variety of speakers. So first of all, we have, and apologies for my terrible pronunciation, Maite Boyero, from who is the Spanish Secure Society's NCP representative, and she's going to give an overview of the opportunities there are for companies in the European Commission's Horizon 2020 program. Then we're going to be looking at opportunities in the specific sector, so in the oceans industry, and again, apologies for my pronunciation. This is provided by Itza Vidoretta from the Spanish cluster, Gaia. So it's very interesting that we're getting different perspectives from across Europe. After that, we have one of the Cyberwatching partners, Francesco Manca, who comes from Aon in Italy. You've all heard of Aon, and he's going to be providing some recommendations and tips on cyber insurance issues specifically for SMEs. And then finally, we have Andrei Kellerman, a great collaborator with us from Cluj IT in Romania, and he's going to give a perspective on the market situation, which of course, if you're an SME, is absolutely essential. So some housekeeping. If you've got questions, can you please add the questions in the chat, and we'll deal with them at the very end of the webinar. And also, you'll have noticed that we're recording this so that we can replay it and publish it on our website. Okay, so we're recording the audio of this. So, thank you for that, everyone. I pass the floor to Maite Boyero.
Hello. Good morning.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you just fine. The floor is yours, and if you let Niccolo know when you want the slides changed, okay?
No problem. Thank you. Well, good morning to everyone. I'm Maite Boyero. I'm the Spanish NCP for Secure Societies since now almost 10 years. I was first in the FP7 configuration in research and security, and also working on trust and security, which was under the ICT program. So next slide, please. I would like to, well, as Nicholas mentioned before, I would like to drop to you roughly the opportunities that you can find in Horizon 2020 in the field of cybersecurity for 2018 call for proposals. The rationale behind these calls, which are open right now, either under the ICT program or the Secure Societies program, come from an analysis of the evolving threat landscape in cybersecurity. As you can see in this slide, there have been, since 2013 to 2017, the Commission has highlighted or has grouped the threats in cybersecurity in these different areas, such as evolving cybercrime business models, cyber espionage, fake news, vulnerabilities from third countries, etc. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you. So that drove the Commission to make a configuration of the next call, 2018 call, including cyber topics, let's say, either under ICT Light or under Secure Society's Societal Challenge. So we will find opportunities for funding either in ICT or a cybersecurity call, in which this year there is only one topic. I have also included in my presentation a list of other topics that have somehow some relationship with cybersecurity. And then in the Societal Challenge 7, Secure Societies, you will find most of the time opportunities under digital security call, but also you can find some possibilities of participation under the infra call. Infra is about protecting the infrastructures of Europe and the critical infrastructure protection in certain sectors which are considered critical at European level. Next slide, please. Yes. So also I wanted to mention, because when you will draft a proposal, it's very important to take into account which is the policy context in cybersecurity right now, and how this is linked to the research and innovation lines, funding lines that have appeared in the work programs. So on the left side, you will find the policy context. So first, the digital single market communication, the NIS directive, Network Information Sharing Directive, the GDPR regulations, the proposal for an e-privacy regulation, and also a communication that was launched in October last year, which was very relevant after the EU Council on strengthening Europe's cyber resilience system and fostering a competitive and innovative cybersecurity industry. Then the CPPP on cybersecurity, the public-private partnership on cybersecurity, and then the cybersecurity package, which was launched by the Commission in September 2017. All these policies have led to a list of topics which you can see on the right side, and some of them, which are in black, will not be explained today because they will be open for either 2019 or 2020 work program. So today I will focus on those which are highlighted in red. Next slide, please. We start with the first one, DS01. This is under the Secure Society's work program. The title is Cybersecurity Preparedness, Cyber Range Simulation and Economics. This calls for innovation actions with a recommended budget between 5 and 6 million euros, TRL 7, and the poll is going to open on the 23rd of August. Next slide, please. The idea for this this topic, which will normally fund more than one project, that can go from 3 to 4 projects normally, depending on the budget of the project we will be presented and submitted, and then which will be selected for funding. So the proposals are for to deliver extended capabilities of cyber ranges and simulators. So reinforcing the type of cyber ranges that are usually used right now by cyber agents. The proposal should develop, test, and validate highly customizable dynamic simulators as knowledge-based platforms with mechanisms in real-time interactions. The proposals have to be validated across one critical economic sector, and this has to be identified in the proposal. So that would be useful not only to identify the sector, but maybe and possibly, if possible, to include a representative of this sector inside the consortium. This is not mandatory, but this is a recommendation. And this is the continuation of a topic, and this is mentioned in the topic, which was open in 2017, entitled Addressing Advanced Cybersecurity Threats and Threat Actors. Next slide, please. This year, we also have a second topic under Secure Society's work program, which is the cybersecurity in the electrical power and energy system, an armor against cyber and privacy attacks and data breaches. This is a topic that will open either in 2018 and in 2020. It will open twice. This is an innovation action, and the recommended budget per project is between 6 and 8 million euros. That means that between 2 and 3 projects will be funded per year with TRL 7. The deadline is the 23rd of August 2018. Next slide, please. The idea for this topic is to work very closely with the energy sector, developing solutions for protection, early detection, and recovery of power plants from cyber attacks. More than cyber attacks that are sophisticated cyber attacks. The proposals will have to deal with the protection to the consumers, especially focusing on the potential vulnerabilities from the smart meters at home and the Internet of Things, but the grid has to be covered as well. So TSO, DSO, all the energy value chain has to be covered. Also, the proposal has to design and implement adequate measures able to make assets and systems less vulnerable, reducing its expositions to cyber attacks. The idea is to make them resilient to cyber attacks. Cyber attacks are less and less easy to address. So the idea is that the energy system can be resilient from a cyber attack as soon as possible in a very short time. The proposal will have to include at least one pilot or demonstrator at large scale level, including neighborhoods, city, or regional level. That will mean that it will have to involve generators, one primary substation, secondary substations, and end users. Those end users can be partners of the proposal or either associated partners, but they have to be actively involved in the proposal. This topic comes from an initiative called Bridge Initiative, which came before as a project that was funded under the Energy Program, and there you can find the website of the Bridge project. Next slide, please. The third topic we find in Societal Challenge 7 is DS05, which is focused on digital security, privacy, data protection, and accountability in critical sectors. This year, in 2018, there is only one subtopic open, which is digital security, privacy, and personal data protection in finance. It will fund innovation actions with a budget, recommended budget between 3 and 4 million euros, and the deadline is the 23rd of August 2018. Next slide, please. The idea behind this project is that these critical sectors, and in this case, financial sector, has to respond to increasingly sophisticated cyber attacks. The projects will have to identify specific vulnerabilities, propagation effects, and countermeasures, developing and testing cyber innovation-based solutions and validating them in pilot demonstrations. They will have to focus specifically on data breaches in the financial sector, which go towards stealing specific data which are sensitive in the financial sector, either financial data, personal data, etc. It will cover 3 strands. You have to choose either one or more strands that your proposal will cover. First strand will cover development of resilient enhancing technologies. Second strand will focus on the development of new, enhanced, parameterized, automated, and collaborative ICT tools for insurance companies, because the proposal can focus on the financial sector and the insurance companies. And the proposal will have to cover the need to collect security, privacy, personal data protection, and accountability requirements for their clients. The third strand will have to focus on standardization to allow the quick adoption of cybersecurity best practices in the domain. Since it is important to include pilots and demonstrations, it will be important to include somehow a financial operator or insurance company within the proposal. Next slide, please. Now I will go very fast to the late ICT call, in which this year, 2018, there is only one topic. I will go very fast because this is covered normally by another colleague, my colleague Fernando Rico, who is in charge of ICT program, and he could not make it to come today to this webinar. So next slide, please. This year, there's only one topic, as I told you, on dynamic countering of cyber attacks. There will be two subtopics, one focusing on cyber attacks management, advanced assurance and protection, and the other one on advanced response and recovery. So, as you can see, the difference, one is to avoid cyber attacks, and the second subtopic is on focusing on response, resilience, and recovery of the system. The call is closing just almost 1 week after the Security Society's call on the 28th of August this year. And there is a recommended budget of 4 to 5 million euros per innovation action. Next slide, please. The rationale behind this call is that it's still difficult to prevent and protect against cyber attacks targeting modern ICT components and complex ICT infrastructures, and especially those involving IoT. So there is also complexity of heterogeneous collections of hardware and software components, and there is an increase of encrypted flows over the internet that should lead to adoption of new techniques such as detection of suspicious cyber activities and classification of flows, while keeping privacy and confidentiality. Next slide, please. So the two subtopics that are open are complementary, so you can go either to one subtopic or the other. First subtopic, as I mentioned before, is more focusing on protection and prevention. The second one on response and recovery. So the tools that you will have to develop are different, are complementary. First one, to integrate approaches in order to minimize attack surfaces, to use eventually artificial intelligence in the fight against cyber attacks, and using deep learning applications. Also, developing execution environments and platforms to ensure an adequate level of security. The second subtopic is working more on developing capabilities to dynamically support human operators in controlling response and recovery actions. Also, to develop threat intelligence sources and share of information with relevant parties, such as CERTs. Also, develop tools including forensics, penetration testing, investigation, and attack attribution services. And finally, addressing the efficient information handling, dynamic evidence-based security, and privacy risk assessment. Next slide, please. So finally, this is my last slide. I would like to mention that you can find other cybersecurity related topics under the Light ICT program. This is a list of those topics, so you can take a look at them. Most of them are opening next year for 2019 call, but just for your information. Because cybersecurity is more and more a cross-cutting issue, so as soon as you are interested in these fields, don't forget that you can find opportunities all throughout the work program, either Light ICT or Secure Societies. So this is my contribution to this webinar, so please feel free if you need any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful. And thank you for speeding up at the end. But this is what everyone wants to see. So plenty of opportunities for companies to get involved here, and also universities, because we've got plenty of research people on the line as well today. So it's a bit of a mix between SMEs and researchers today. So next, let's go to Itzo Vidotera from Gaia, please, who's going to be looking at some specific opportunities in the oceans industry. Thank you, Itzo. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you to all of you, and thank you to the Cyberwatching for the invitation and for providing this opportunity. So good morning to all of you. I am Itziar Vidorreta, and I come from Gaia, the ICT cluster of the Basque Country, concretely from the International Department. We are based in Bilbao. So today I am going to centralize my presentation on how we are working the cybersecurity aspect related to a specific domain, which it is the ocean domain, and through a living lab methodology. So the title of the presentation, you can see it on the screen. So next slide, please. Okay, so Gaia is the ICTA cluster in the Basque Country, which it is the industry of knowledge and applied technology. We were founded in 1983 as an association from electronic sector, and nowadays we are representing also the engineering, the telecommunication, the ICT, the gaming, and consultancy services. That is why we changed our name to the industry of knowledge and applied technology. So you can see there our numbers. We have 280 associated companies. We are investing a lot in in training and also in investigation. So next slide, please. We are working a lot for our territory, for the Basque Country, for Spain, and for all Europe as well. And we are a sector committed with the main opportunities of our territory. We have a strategic plan with three main axes, which are the smart industry, in which we are working in the industry 4.0 and energy, the smart territory, in which we work to build advanced infrastructures and platforms for the governance, sustainable environment, and also for the smart society, in which we are working a lot in training domains together with the universities of the Basque Country and in all of Spain as well. So next slide, please. We are a committed cluster with the internationalization, and in this internationalization strategy, we are partners from different networks. We participate in networks in Europe mainly, but also in Asia, which is the Swiss Asia, for example. And in these networks, we work together with other clusters, other big companies, SMEs, and universities as well, also governments from other countries, and we work to represent the technologies and the ICT and engineering sectors to different domains, which it is, for example, the sports domain, which it is through the Sportis network that you can see there. We are working also in technologies for environmental monitoring, which it is the Birth Living Lab network. We are council members of the European Network of Living Labs, and another specific network in which we are working is the Ocean network, which it is called the Ocean Living Lab or Ocean Tech Living Lab. Next slide. please. Okay, so in this network, and now I'm going to talk to you about this network and how we are working on cybersecurity and technology aspects in this concrete network. It is the first transboundary network or living lab in which we are participating companies from France and from Spain. It was through all the Atlantic coast. It started from Osegor to Zarauz, which is a small village in the Basque Country, and nowadays our networks go from La Rochelle in France to Oporto in Portugal. So we are the first transboundary living lab certified by ENOL, which it is the European network of living labs, and we are working for the promotion of all the innovation aspects related to water activities and sport. Promoting the sector and increasing the competitiveness. We are a European reference sector for the ocean sector in sliding and aquatic activities, and we are connecting all the companies of the territory. We are a network in which we have our SMEs are represented, also big companies such as Boat Riders Group, which is Quicksilver. Then we are working also with Tribor from Decathlon. We are working with big companies from Portugal and like Sonae Group. So what do we offer? We offer to companies product testing. We offer dissemination. We offer also them methodologies to scale up their product to new markets and marketing keys. So the ecosystem, it is a economic development engine. It is represented by 5,000 indirect jobs, 5,000 direct jobs, 15,000 indirect jobs. We have 100,000 users. We have and we have an income of 2.8 billion euros. Next slide, please. So the core of our network is to train, to prototype, and to test, and to work with the startups of the territory. The Ocean Tech ecosystem, it is certified by the French Tech Startup Ecosystem, which has the support of the French government. And that is why we are working in different methodologies to help our startups to, and also to provide them with new approaches, and cybersecurity is one of them, to these startups, helping them to go to the market. Next slide, please. So we have also an internationalization strategy. As I explained, nowadays our ecosystem covers all the coast from La Rochelle to Porto, but we have an internationalization strategy, and we are setting up new centers which are mirrors, no? Let's say that to ours, and we are working with people from San Diego, also from La Reunion, from La Reunion Island, from Melbourne in Australia, and you can see there the different countries. Next slide, please. So related to cybersecurity, we are working in 4 different axes. One related to people, because we are working in different technologies, or our startups are working in different technologies to make the product for water sports and water activities more competitive. And in this way, we are working in organic electronics for blue sport products, and also in a system, a live work system, to make our coast more safe the 24 hours. More concretely to cybersecurity, we are developing networks for indoor and outdoor, and we are working with leading companies like Palo Alto or Thalia. We are working also in digitalization, in a concrete digitalization strategy together with Quant, which is it is a searching engine like Google, but it is European, and it provides security to the user. It doesn't make any kind of traceability, so we are working with them, and we are also working a lot with different universities in training domains. So next slide, please. So our aim is to lead the cybersecurity for the oceans and promoting an implementation, promoting the implementation of a transnational innovation strategy. We are working in digitalization and IoT systems. And an example, for example, is the one you can see there, which it is put into the product like a smart web suite and NFC system to provide more safety to the user. This is an identification system for emergency situation that provides the identification data of each user, no? And if something happens to the people wearing that product, you can go with your mobile phone, and the medical assistant or the life work can help you and can know if you are allergic to any kind of product. So now we are working to develop the cybersecurity protocols for this technology. For example, this is an example. Next slide, please. This is how we are working to develop a cybersecurity platform to the different connected products that we have in the coast. We have a network of sensors and intelligent voice that are monitoring all the time the coast between France and Spain to make it more safe. And now we are working with Palo Alto to develop this cybersecurity platform to have all these connected products in a safe way. Next slide, please. The digitalization strategy that we are following using Quant, that it is a confidentiality preservation research engine, and we are working with them to develop the digitalization strategy also of our startups. And next slide, please. And finally, we have the training, in which we are working to establish network of key cross-border actors for employment, as well as exchanging with practices, capitalizing technologies, and everything that can make the blue sports and the oceanic ecosystem more safe and more competitive. So that's it.
Thank you very much. That was very interesting about, especially about the swimsuits and monitoring people there as well. That was very good. And you've got a little question from George Sushu in the chat there, who's interested in collaborating with you. So let's pass now to Francesco Manca from Aon now, who's going to provide some recommendations for SMEs on cyber insurance. Francesco, the floor is yours.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm going to make a quick introduction on this theme. So risk management isn't something that most companies do until things goes bad. wouldn't we like to be the one who thinks about things before it's too late? This means that we imagine that we're facing the risk management process in general. We could even prevented some of the most impacting cyber incidents of the world history. For example, the Equifax case, the data breach from Uber, or for example, the strong impacting Maersk ransomware. For this reason, we are going to face, especially for SMEs, a risk that is to be wiped away forever. And this means that companies should start to think about a complex, but even simple process about risk management in general. Next slide, please. The meaning of this approach is that if you're going to think about the cyber insurance, you should evaluate by the first a cyber risk management process to evaluate the maturity level of your organization. And this is strongly suggested, even with some light level, a bird's eye watch of your maturity level. Otherwise, the cyber insurance will have some costs of a scope which is not applicable to your organization. So typically, it's considered you have to consider adopting a risk-based cyber insurance strategy, which is going to help clients to optimize the total costs of risk associated with cyber risk exposures. And this means that we have to have an holistic integration within the general risk management processes that are put in place in the organization, and to start a link between IT, cybersecurity, but even the financial part of the organization, like, for example, CFOs or risk managers in general. But if we are thinking about the SMEs, of course, these functions are not pretty well defined. This includes an approach that is harmonized between all the whole organization. And for example, in the slide that you see, we're considering compliance, legal, finance, HR, and so on, but mainly the cybersecurity and the IT. This means that the typical cyber risk management process to evaluate which is the risk to be transferred, so this is the step 0 of the process suggested, is to assess and evaluate the scope and assess the risks, evaluate which is the scope of the assessment, which means the people, the process, and the technologies. We have, after that, quantify those risks, and which is the percent we have to transfer to the insurance market. Otherwise, you're going to spend a lot of money in it. And then generally, there are some responses suggested to the insurance market. Next slide, please. Okay, so the integrated path through the continuous improvement and information security continuous improvement and risk management is strongly suggested to reduce your cyber insurance premiums through what? Using a cyber risk management process or cybersecurity management in general, which are, for example, evaluating the cyber risks with a typical governance approach or a monolithic approach to understand which is the level of conformity through standards or which are the main gaps in cybersecurity for organizations. Then, in the other sense, it's suggested to evaluate and test your infrastructures and to evaluate some improvements in the infrastructure of the organization. This means that, for example, mainly when we're going to do this kind of activities, we are going to suggest to put in place a zoning of the infrastructure, to evaluate different technologies, firewalls with different layers, and so on. So with the governance and the technical security, we have an input to the main cybersecurity domains, which could be described as in this colored slide as threat management, organizational and controls, operational activities, digital trust, data protection, identity and access management, which are so complicated, as you can see, because cybersecurity is as a Deming wheel. So it means that you have a lot of processes to put in place to be mature. But what you see underlined in this slide, it is there are a lot of processes which are going to affect the price sorry, of the cyber insurance, which are mainly identity and access management, segregation of duties, threat intelligence, and vulnerability management and penetration test, which means if you're going to patch your vulnerabilities of your infrastructure, but periodically testing it. And then if you're certified by some standards, if you have an information security management system, if your company is well trained and aware of the cyber risk, and if you have put in place, for example, the incident management process, and we are talking about someone which is going to respond to your incident. It means that not especially inside your organization, but even third parties, if you're going to have services like SOC as a service or NOC as a service, and so on. And the cyber insurance is even evaluating if you have put in place a strong and well-established backup, disaster recovery management, and business continuity management. Next slide, please. So, making a quick synthesis of what affects the price of the cyber insurance policies are, by the first, your annual turnover, of course. By the second, the revenues generated from online activities. It means if you're going to process a credit card and if you're certified by PCI DSS, the price could change of the policy. Then the insurance companies or the cyber insurance brokers like us, like Aon, are going to evaluate if you have a strong process put in place about identity and access management with the strong segregation of duties in the roles in the applications that you're running in your infrastructure. So if you're running SAP, the ERP enterprise risk and the enterprise the ERPs in your company, you have to have different roles in the in your applications. Then another strong part is made by the business continuity management system and the disaster recovery management. If you have a DR service, you're more resilient, and then the cyber insurance policy is going to cost less. Then backups, of course. If you have a strong strategy about backups, which is strongly related with some of the most relevant cyber incidents, like, for example, ransomware, if you're going to test your backups, if you have the duplication softwares, if you have a mixed strategy for backups, like, for example, hot, cold, and warm site, and so on. And if your company is strongly aware about cybersecurity, for example, if you're going to do some trainings, if you're going to participate to some webinars, and so on, if you have certified people inside your company about cybersecurity. These are the main elements affecting the cost of the cyber insurance. Next slide, please. So, making a quick synthesis, you have to identify the scope of the coverage, so the main scenarios and the possible risks that your company is going to face. This is suggested. You have to define the possible impacts and then to evaluate the cyber insurance position. Next slide, please. So this means that to place a cyber insurance policy, you have to evaluate the 5 elements to the broker or to the insurance. Then, if you want to save money, you have to optimize the program. So you have to evaluate the insurable risk, evaluating what is your budget and which are the contractual requirements. It means that you can write down the policy based on the typical risk that your organization is going to face. And this depends even from the sector. Then you have to evaluate the risk appetite, risk tolerance, and all the risk management teams to evaluate the maximum probable loss with the worst case. And you have to share the possible data to the broker or to the insurance. Then in the end, you can evaluate the scope, so the companies, the processes, the events of the coverage, and then you can negotiate the market limitations. So making a quick synthesis, the companies and especially the SMEs could face this problem in two manners. One, giving evidence of the 5 things that we said before. Second, using some standard products for the cyber insurance policy. Or third, you can perform a risk management process, evaluating what is your maturity level, tailoring what is your cyber insurance policy, and trying to protect yourself from those risks and from the risk that your policy is not properly made for your organization. Thank you very much. That's all for me. I'm going to pass the word to Nick. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Francesco. That was excellent. Very, very interesting. And I hope there's some recommendations that people can pick up on already from that. So let's move on to our final presenter, Andrei Kellerman from Cluj IT in Romania, who's going to give us a perspective on the market from him. Okay, so I hand over to Andrei. Thank you, Andrei.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Cyberwatching, for giving us this opportunity to talk a little bit about Cluj, about our organization, and about what we do to encourage companies to look more carefully at cybersecurity and, in general, to security services. Let me first tell you a little bit about myself. So I am Andrei Kellerman. I am the Executive Director of Cluj IT Cluster. And I am not a software engineer or an engineer of any kind. I am actually a business graduate here in Cluj. So throughout my entire presentation, you will see that this is the perspective from a business standpoint, and because some of the participants are not from Romania or not from the region, the wider region, the Eastern European region, I would like to talk a little about Cluj, my home city. So next slide, please. Cluj has become, in the last years, last 10-15 years, Romania's IT growth pole. This has happened because we have, first and most importantly, a very well developed university center here. We have more than 12 universities, of which 6 are public universities, and 4 of them are ranked in the top 12 Romanian universities. These 12 universities bring altogether more than 100,000 students, which adds to the 300,000 inhabitants of Cluj. Cluj is also the Romanian capital of clusters, something that also Nick mentioned in the beginning of this webinar. Clusters are a very important instrument to sustain or to support the development of certain value chains. And we have clusters in IT, like ourselves, in energy, agriculture, furniture production, and so on. We also have more than 15. We have 15 research institutes. Mostly, we have also very active civic life and also multicultural community. Next slide, please. Cluj is defined, as I said, first by its education sector, and then the IT&C, which has become slowly, but also very importantly, the most important economic pillar of our economy. It also has an emerging energy industry, and provides a lot of business support services, such as specialized medical services, cultural and creative industries. Cluj-Napoca has managed their transition from a predominantly manufacturing city to a city with a strong and balanced economic mix, which is also a very good sign of economic maturity. And this resulted, as you can probably see on the slide, in very good figures in GDP per capita, which is within the European average. As I said previously, over the years, the IT sector has grown continuously in my home city, attracting skilled people from all over Romania. Currently, we have more than 15,000 people who work in the local IT sector. And according to the last census, we have more than 1,200 IT businesses in the city. Of course, not all of them are really active. To our own estimates, approximately 600 businesses are really active at this moment. We talk about all size companies, from very small, very specialized companies with 3 to 5 people to larger companies with thousands of employees. Next slide, please. A few words about Cluj IT Cluster. We are an innovation-based value chain established along the IT industry, and we were formally established or registered in 2012. We are following very closely the cooperation-based ecosystem model, based on a quadruple model, which means basically that we have the companies, we have also the research and the local authorities, and in general authorities or public authorities, and various communities who are interested in seeing this sector further develop. We are the largest IT cluster organization in the country, currently with more than 55 organizations. 40 of them are companies, startups, SMEs, and large companies, including multinationals, as I said before. We account for approximately a fourth of the local IT industry. Very important for us, we have all the public universities in Cluj members of our organization, and we are working very, very closely with these research centers in Cluj, to put them in a better contact with the business in our region. We are a silver labeled cluster organization, member also of the European Digital SMEs Alliance, and a founding member of the Balkan and Black Sea ICT Network, a unique initiative that reunites the most important organizations in the IT sector across this macro region. Next slide, please. This is a snapshot of what we do. I'm not going to go into a lot of details because we are running already short on time, but I would like to underline a few ideas. First, that you can see that we support innovation. Innovation has become a very used word lately, and that's somehow not very good, because it it makes people less respondent, let's say, to this kind of objectives. We in our cluster support innovation, but we decided to define a few areas where we can really do something. And with this, I will go to the next slide. So we defined, as I said, 4 areas of smart specialization for the IT industry in Cluj. That's where, according to our own studies and research, the IT industry here in our region has chances to specialize. One is smart city, the second one, bioinformatics, also smart agriculture, and last but not least, cybersecurity. Next slide, please. And then the question, why cybersecurity? And this somehow relates to the topic of my presentation, and that's market opportunities. First, of course, we looked at the global context. Data is now is considered a new gold. Well, it actually has been for the last 10 years or so, if not more. New emerging technologies that can be abused, like cloud platforms, mobile communications, blockchain, artificial intelligence. Increasing incidents of hacking, identity theft, attack on infrastructure, organized crime, from selling illegal items to terrorism. And then the European and national context, new policies and legal frameworks with impact on how business and individuals relate to cybersecurity. A mix of push and pull forces, the main push force policies and instruments to support digitization, with the idea that in this way we can increase competitiveness of the economy, of the European economy, and then the pull force regulations and over-regulation. And also technical critical challenges. As I said, blockchain, artificial intelligence are the usual suspects here. And limited knowledge available to comply with this new legal and technical environment. So this is just a few ideas why we considered cybersecurity as being a good opportunity for the IT companies in our region. Next slide, please. And this is also a short overview of the cybersecurity environment here in Cluj. We considered the local endowments, advanced technological skills and infrastructure. We are known otherwise as people with very good technical skills. We also have very good infrastructure from internet connectivity to computing power. So we have, let's say, this requirements here locally already in place. A lot of interdisciplinary knowledge within geographical reach. We have the universities who are working and research centers who are working on the topic and are very keen to share this knowledge with companies. Many incipient local initiatives which leverage on these endowments. As I said, research, but also startups, spin-offs, and joint ventures that have more recently started to act on the economic or on the market. How do we act? We established a digital innovation hub, recognizing the fact that the performance of an economy and society is largely based on technological availability and its adoption. This digital innovation hub consists of a regional partnership, which we call Transylvania iHub 4.0. And we are currently 12 institutions involved in this, or organizations involved in this initiative. We are trying to position Cluj as a hub for digital services, including cybersecurity, for the entire northwest region in Romania, with the view, of course, that later on in the next stage, we will be able to offer such services on a wider scale. This initiative has been selected by the European Commission to receive technical assistance. And this is an ongoing process, by the end of which we will probably have a clear business plan on how to approach the development of the Digital Innovation Hub. And we are also creating a platform for collaboration among universities, research centers, and companies. As I said, there is a lot of interest for these actors to be brought together and develop their own interest in this way. So this is my very short overview of what's going on in cybersecurity in Cluj.
Fascinating. Thank you very much, Andre. And I really like the quote. I'll just quote you. The performance of economy and society is based nowadays on technical availability and adoption. So with that in mind, there's no real questions at the moment from the people following the webinar today. There's a couple of requests for collaboration. One from Eva Shelahan from the Canvas project. One from George Sushu from Bayer in Romania also, and one from Ines Martinez, who's a PhD student, a master's student, sorry, in the Netherlands. So if you're wanting to collaborate with them, then please do get in touch with them. Based on, so I've got a question based on Andre's quote, you know, that the performance of economy and society is based on technology availability and adoption. I have a question for each of you because Andre, you're in Romania, Francesco, you're in Spain, and Itza, you're in, Itza, you're from Spain, and Francesco in Italy. How ready are the companies that you're working with at the moment in terms of providing, in terms of being aware of the sort of cybersecurity and privacy issues? In particular, how ready and how aware are they compared to 1 year ago, when the GDPR was yet to come in and the NIS directive was yet to come in? So there were, you know, the GDPR, there's a massive amount of publicity in the media and the press, and everybody seemed to know about it all of a sudden. But how has that influenced companies today? So first I'd like to ask that to, so we'll go backwards, so I'll ask that to Andre first, and then Francesco, if you can answer that, and then finally Itza. All right.
I would say.
Okay, go Andre.
Okay. Okay. I would say that companies and in general organizations are not yet prepared for implementing the GDPR, because I understand that this was your question, Nick, right? It has been a lot of publicity, yes, but I think that for now, what most of the organizations have done is very formal compliance. We have all been flooded with a lot of requests to opt in or opt out from newsletters and things like that. But that's again a very formal type of compliance. I think that the more important measures in terms of protection of personal data have not been implemented by organizations. I'm not referring here to large organizations like multinationals or maybe universities or research centers. They have this kind of resources, But for small and medium-sized enterprises, I think this is still a problem, and it's going to be a problem for the upcoming years. I'm very sure about that. I'm looking at our partners and the companies that we have in our cluster, and we see the same challenge. Yes, again, they have complied to some extent with the requirements in the GDPR, but until full compliance, I think there are a lot of things to do. So that would be my answer, and that applies in general to cybersecurity. So it's not just about the GDPR, but it's about understanding of how fundamental for your business becomes cybersecurity. And it's a lot of awareness that has to be built among companies, among organizations. And this is one of the main reasons why we started this Digital Innovation Hub initiative, because we want to set the framework where companies, where organizations can come to one single point and say, okay, I have this problem, I want to solve it. I don't know how, but maybe you guys can help us.
Wonderful, thank you, Andre. And I think the hub is a good way of. There's a question from John Hughes on how companies, particularly very small SMEs, can plan a cyber risk assessment. So obviously the hub is somewhere that small companies can get that type of support. So so Francesco, you work for a large insurance company and you deal every day with SMEs. So what's your view on this?
Yeah, I tried to write down some small tips, because if an SME wants to run a cyber risk management process, can or of course evaluate a consultancy service, or by the second, even running down a very light approach, which is not so costly. By the second, there are even some insurance brokers which are going to perform this process in a light level with maybe even freeware solution. There are even some free solutions like CyberWiser, which we developed, Nick, in our past consortia. So please take a look to the website, which presents a light level assessment or even a deeper way. Or, for example, you can, of course, study the typical approaches made by ISO 27005 or NIST 800-30 and so on, to perform it on your company, to understand by the first how mature is your organization about it, and to evaluate which risks you're going to face. There are even some amazing reports made by IBM, Verizon, and so on, which presents the main risks per sector and per dimension to the organization. So if it is interesting, please take a look to all these themes that I tried to give an input. I hope that I was clear. Thank you.
Thanks, Francesco. So if we put this question also to Itzer as well.
Hello?
So how are the Spanish companies dealing with this? And is it easy for them to comply? Thank you.
Okay, yes, I'm completely aligned with what Andre has said, because at least in Spain and in the Basque Country, big companies and universities are working in this direction, and they are implementing new solutions, and they are trying to train students now in universities also in cybersecurity aspects and in new masters. But SMEs are not working on that. They are not developing new solutions. They are not even implementing any kind of cybersecurity solutions for their own companies. And I think that it is because the society is not prepared for that. They have implemented the new GDP legislation, of course, because they have to. It was a must, but they are not working on that direction because the society is not aware of that. And if the society is not aware, the SMEs are not going to work for new solutions and are not going to implement even these solutions on their own companies. So I think that we must work on that awareness campaigns, on governance, ethics, and in that direction. It's what I think, because here also I must say that here in the Basque Country, the Basque government has set up the Basque Cybersecurity Center, and they are trying to work in this direction of awareness and working with small companies. But we still have to work a lot in that direction.
Thank you. So that fits perfectly with Jean Hughes' second question, which is the role of ENISA. So you're talking, it's great that we've got it's from the Basque Country, and we've got Andre from Cluj in Romania. Now, ENISA is obviously, well, when you have big general European laws like GDPR, the NIS directive as well, which has an indirect impact potentially on SMEs who are providing services to large critical infrastructure providers. How important is the role of ENISA, and can the influence of ENISA really make an impact on a local basis right across Europe? So that's to Itzel and also to Andre.
Yes, yes, of course. I think that the answer is yes. But the point is that related to the cybersecurity aspect, we only see in the press or in the media, we only see the typical news and the typical cases related to big companies, hospitals, to big infrastructures. We don't have any kind of examples on how these cybersecurity attacks and cybersecurity aspects can provide some kind of damage to the people and to society itself. So I think that we should provide with new cases, but that they are closer to the people and to the normal life of people, not to hospitals or, I don't know, to a hotel, let's say. And I think that with this kind of associations, we can work on that.
Thanks. And Eva has provided a good comment that cyber risk assessment can be very different from data protection risk assessments. They're two totally different perspectives, so you need experts working from both domains together. Okay, so Andre, the ENISA has been set up to provide this type of support across Europe. How and also to have this combination of experts, match that with what Itza's just said about having, more and more examples of the impact on real people, if you can say that, and real companies. How important is that in your region?
As I said, organizations are not yet aware about how cybersecurity becomes a crucial issue for their own existence, for their own business. And organizations such as ENISA, they could have an impact if they are acting locally. as Itzhard said before. So I think these examples, these case studies where people and organizations that they are part of understand how important it is to implement management risk measures. Until we don't have that, it's going to be probably the same story. We will see in newspapers and in general in news that this company or that organization has been attacked. And you know, just recently we had a story. It's still running here in Romania about the portal, the website of the Ministry of Education. It is a clear example of how lightly cybersecurity has been treated by a governmental body of the Romanian establishment. And this website has been compromised, and now they are working and patching, but of course this takes time, takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of resources. If things have been done properly from the beginning, then these vulnerabilities have been, of course, less likely to occur. Unfortunately, the only ones who are talking about cybersecurity issues are the ones who are providing services in this area. And that's not good because, or not enough, because there's always this biased somehow view that, okay, they want to sell something to us. And that's why I said that we need to have also the perspective of actual users, of actual organizations and people who have been affected in some way or another by cybersecurity incidents.
Thank you very much, Andre. And I think what we'll do is we'll start to close the webinar, but that's an absolutely excellent point, and it's something which Itzhard has said, and I think everybody on the line would agree that the more awareness there is, the more cases that can be highlighted, the better. And I think, you know, EC funded projects have a bit of a role to play here in terms of reaching out and having educational events where these people are, you know, the issues are highlighted and they're really brought out as being essential to the future of the economy, for example, and people, you know, having this. I can understand the skepticism as well, that, you know, people think they're being sold something. So it's very important that there is some you know, objectiveness in the information being given, and I think ENISA is a good answer for that. And it's very important, though, that this drips down on a local level, so that organisations such as it says in the Basque Country and Andre in Cluj can really benefit from that and see the difference. So I'd like to thank all of our speakers for taking the time and preparing their presentations today. I'd also like to thank all of you for participating on the webinar, and in particular to AEI for organising the webinar as Cyberwatching partner, and for getting the speakers on board today. So please stay in touch with us. The webinar will be available online, so we'll send you a message when it is available. And please keep in touch with us. There'll be webinars coming up soon, so we'll send you information about that too. So thank you very much, everyone, and have a lovely rest of the day and a lovely summer as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.